Resilience is different than being anti-fragile. Anti-fragile means that the struggles, the pressure is an opportunity for us to become stronger because of it, not in spite of it. When I'm under extreme pressure, I go, okay, I'm about to level up.
There's always a turning point, the moment that tries to break you, but ends up launching your destiny. This is Miracle Moment. I'm Ray Ireland, and I'm here to help you rise into the mission God created you for. Let's jump in. If you're someone that has been under pressure and is going for those big dreams, going for those big goals, and maybe you're someone that's been going for them, going after them for a while, this episode is going to be for you because I'm bringing on a guest, Mariel Anderson, and she is an incredible entrepreneur herself and also mental performance coach, speaker, and founder of Forged Youth. So she is working with kids that are in their sports and their young athletes phase of life, and they're just getting after it. And so she not only has grown a business and dealt with her own versions of pressure and stress and all of that comes with the identity shift of going from athlete into business or coach. But she also walks with these kids day after day, seeing how pressure can actually forge them into becoming these amazing athletes. But of course, we also know if you're someone that's been under pressure lately or maybe long-term pressure, that there are certain points where, you kind of constrict and things don't work as well. So we're going to be exploring all of these pieces and of course, sharing a little bit more about her story. So hang tight and let's dive in. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful. It's so fun because we got connected and then you had me on your show and it was like, okay, we definitely got to keep this conversation going because you're just doing such good work in the world.
Thank you so much, Ray. Yeah, and I'm happy to be here and be connecting with your audience. And I hope that I will provide some value. I know I will. That'll be good.
Yeah, totally. So share a little bit about your story, how you got to where you are and what you're doing now with Forged Youth.
Yeah, for sure. So back in the day, I was an elite volleyball player. I went and played in post-secondary. I actually got recruited all over North America and Europe and ended up being asked to go to the Olympics. Life had other plans and I ended up experiencing some pretty severe trauma in my life, and that derailed my whole athletic career. And it's interesting how life kind of brings us back. So I went for years kind of figuring out myself after trauma happened and really figuring out who I was. And what I realized in the darkest moment of my life was that all of the mental training skills, the mindset and performance skills that I was taught through sport were actually what was bringing me out of the darkness. And they were giving me the opportunity to rise above and have something that was not within my control that happened to me. The skills that I had, unknowingly even, gave me the opportunity to take what was in my control, which was my attitude, my effort, my self-talk, my focus, my preparation, how I move forward, all of those things. And on the other side of that, I ended up, for years, I started a charity and was working with at-risk youth because I was an at-risk youth for a while and I wanted to give back. And I feel like we become a little bit of who we needed. And then it's interesting also, though, because life ended up kind of guiding me away from the charity. I ended up closing down my charity because I realized that I could be making more impact in the lives of youth by doing what I do now, which is why I started Forged Youth. And now I work with athletes and I make sure that they have access to the skills that literally led me to greatness in my sport, but also led me out of dark times and to thriving in life now.
Mm-hmm. I love it. It's so cool to hear more about your journey. And I've been so excited for this episode recording. One thing that I've been in a lot of conversation with is identity and how identity shifts can be some of the most challenging things we go through as humans, because there's times where you just put your all into something, especially for people that are sort of high achieving leaders naturally. So you've been a sort of a go-getter from your early young age. if you've been that and you put everything into this goal or this dream and everyone's saying, go for it, get after it, and then something happens and it shifts you, it can be like this death of who you thought you were. And so I'm just curious, when it comes to your identity shifts, were there some beliefs that you used to maybe hold on to really strong that you had to let go of in order to step into the purpose that you're now living today?
100%. I was lost for the longest time after sports because I was always the athlete. And because I was running with reckless abandon for these crazy goals with my sport, I didn't actually have time to explore any other facets of who I might have been. And so I just thought that I wasn't that way. For example,
Mhm.
like artistic and creative. I still
Mhm.
can't draw to save my life. And all of these things. And so I just figured I'm not artistic. And then all of a sudden, when I stopped playing volleyball, it was one of the major reasons why I stopped was because of chronic pain. Body holds the score. I
Mhm.
had gone through some crazy traumas and my body held the score, and I lived in extreme chronic pain for years in the hospital, like all this kind of stuff. And so I physically couldn't play anymore. I couldn't even go for a hike or anything like that. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not even not only like I'm not an athlete anymore. I'm not even an active person anymore. Who am I? What can I do? And it really got me down for quite a while until I started to realize that, wait, I have control over this. What have I always wanted to try that I never could because I had volleyball or I had training or I had this? And all of a sudden I was like, well, I
Mhm.
always kind of wanted to try and be creative and be artistic. And what does that look like? And so all of a sudden I found myself attempting to draw and paint. And I've tried every medium of art at this point, and I've realized I'm actually quite artsy and I can do it. And I have so much fun. And it's a great expression of myself. And it's been a big part of my healing journey. And so that was one piece, was like, it's not about what I'm doing, it's about who I am. And through sport, it was just that everything was just focused on one thing, but it doesn't have to be. I can be a curious person who likes to take risks and who has, goals of, okay, I'm going to produce an event, and that's artistic and needs my leadership and organization skills and all of these key pieces that I learned through sport, who've become who I am, and I can put them into something
Mhm.
else.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like with the death of one part of us comes alive a whole new
Yes.
identity of surprises and gifts that are there to be revealed. Um, can you speak a little bit more into like the time when things started getting into action and you started seeing that there's momentum with what you were doing? And at that point, what were some of the identities or the mindsets that you needed to kind of hold on to get the momentum and traction that you're in today?
Yeah, I would say that the big shift from and momentum getter was when I started my charity, really, because that was getting me out of my like funk of who am
Mhm.
I into this is giving me a purpose. I'm giving back. I'm making impact. So it went from being focused on me and the suck that was going on in my own life to how can I give back and how can I help? And that just lit a fire under me. And
Mhm.
so that was a really good transition, and something that I always suggest to people is like give back in some way, because once we bring the focus outside of our own struggle and pain and put it onto something else that is empowering somebody else, all of a sudden that also helps us rise at the same time it's helping someone else. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's one
Totally.
key piece. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you have, I like to call it the miracle moment, sort of a key point or moment where everything shifted? Like there was a clear, my life is this way and now it's this way. And sometimes that miracle moment is actually something sort of intense that happened. And then you realize, oh, that's why that happened. Or maybe it's a really amazing, like true, miracle that came to life. Do you have one that comes to mind that you want to share with us?
I have a few. So I'm trying to think of like, in our lives we have chapters, right? It's like it's
Yeah.
almost at the end of each chapter you have that miracle moment that's like, aha, okay, this chapter is over. The next one needs to start, right? And
Now I understand why all that happened.
yes, yes. And it's almost like we said at the beginning, like that grief and joy really does walk hand in hand, because
Mm.
regardless of, um, it being something good or something hard, or there's still always going to be grief when we say goodbye. So that miracle moment for me, let's
Sure.
say, for I'll pick one. When I had my charity. So this is the one that kind of transitioned me into now working with athletes. Okay. So I had a charity, and for 10 years, this was my path. I've raised millions of dollars for at-risk youth and mental health initiatives in Vancouver. But it was really hard for us to get funding and to keep going and start programs for youth and like all this stuff. And literally for a decade of my life, I gave it everything I had. Like, when you compromise the time with the family and you cover like all of those
Mhm.
things because you're just going so hard for something that means a lot.
Because you're also a mom.
Yes.
I think that's important for the audience
Yes,
to
yes, I'm
know.
a mom.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And so I was just exhausted, and I just felt like the doors kept on closing and closing. But I was like, but I'm supposed to be helping youth. I'm supposed to be making impact. All the things that I went through are for a reason, and like, all those things. And you just feel like you're so done and you've got absolutely nothing left to give. And like just tears, right? And then all of a sudden it was this aha moment of I was putting myself in a box of, okay, you want to make impact to youth. The only way that you can do that, Mariel, is by having a nonprofit and having programs that look exactly like this and da 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 da. And then all of a sudden I got like a smack upside the head of, you're putting yourself in a box. It doesn't have to look the way that you want it to or that you think that it should look.
Mm-hmm.
And a door opened to me getting back into the sports side of things and athletes and working with a sports psychologist with youth athletes. And it was like this, oh my gosh, from the depths of despair of, am I doing this right? What's going on? Why is this so hard? Everything in my life feels like it's falling apart, trying to make something good happen, to all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, wait, this is actually getting back to my roots, the roots of like
Mm-hmm.
where I started and where I learned all of these lessons who have created the person that I am today that I love. And, all of those key pieces. So that, I would say that was a miracle moment for me.
Totally. That's so cool. And I think in those transition times, that is one of the times where we experience in the most amount of pressure. As someone who, really likes to have order and structure in my life, those moments where I'm making a new decision, I can sometimes just feel like that heaviness and weight of like, I just want to make the right decision,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to do the wrong thing. And I want to make sure this is like the best win for all. And those are the things that kind of go through my mind. And I hear that in your story around like that pressure that comes in at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about like the difference between like surviving through the pressure versus really thriving with pressure, and how that's like helped you? And what is that fine line? What is that dance that you do?
Yeah, I love this. So this brings in one of my favorite words, and it's being anti-fragile.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us think resilience, and when we're under pressure and what doesn't break you makes you stronger and like all that, we but resilience is different than being anti-fragile. And when I learned that word, all of a sudden it was like a breath of fresh air, and I almost felt like okay, hard things are good. And so
Totally.
anti-fragile, for those of you who are listening who maybe just aren't quite sure what that concept is that when we say something is fragile, it means that it breaks very easily under pressure, right? Something that is resilient is something that can withstand pressure, but it doesn't get better. And when we're
Mhm.
anti fragile, it means that the struggles, the hardships, the pressure, all that kind of stuff is actually an opportunity for us to become stronger because of it, not in spite
Mhm.
of it. And
Yeah,
so when I
I
was
love that.
able to understand, okay, this is actually something that is going to make me stronger, it it doesn't mean that when I'm under extreme pressure and feeling all angsty and all that kind of stuff, that it's like that stuff doesn't happen very often anymore. And like all it, that's not it. It's just that when I feel it like that, I go, okay, this means that I'm about to level up. I'm about to learn something. I'm about to, and so all of a sudden I put my like inspector hat on and get super curious. And I'm like, okay, what is happening right now? And what did I do before that didn't work? So what do I need to change in order to get a
Mhm.
different outcome? and
Mm-hmm.
and who maybe in my life has been here before that I can use the call a friend option and go,
Yes.
okay, like, because people want to help too. I think a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
especially us as women, we're good maybe at talking to our friends who are kind of on the same level of like all the shit that's going on in our life.
Yeah.
But it's really, which is great. It's very good to have that community around you to do that. But the
Mm-hmm.
most important piece is look up who has been there, who is somewhere where you want to be, and to be
Yes.
humble enough to go, hey, I can see kind of who you are and how you respond to things. And I really look up to you. Do you mind offering me, like, can I have a minute of your time to ask you about
Mm-hmm.
something? And I have never been denied.
If you're loving this conversation and it's sparking something inside of you, maybe it's time to share your own voice with the world. That's exactly why we created the Podcast Accelerator, to help leaders like you go from hidden to heard with a podcast that connects, inspires, and actually grows your business. We launched together in just a few months, and you'll have the system, support, and strategy to keep scaling and growing. Doors are open now, so the link to apply is in the show notes. We cannot wait to see you in there. Yeah.
Right. And so all of a
It's
sudden
so
you
true.
have words of wisdom being spoken into your life from somebody who's been there, and you can take the wisdom or you can go, okay, thank you, and not do it. But regardless,
Mhm.
calling a friend and having that person to help you level up in that situation is a really important piece.
Yeah, so, so true. I was just in a conversation around you got to have people that are walking with you,
Mhm.
that are in the ick and the fun of that season.
Yeah.
Then you want to have people ahead of you to go to. And then also the importance of having people behind you,
Yeah.
because you get to guide them and be that person.
Yes.
And it's a really fulfilling way of doing life when you actually have all three. And so if you're listening, you can kind of take some inventory now and just think, like, do I have all three in my life? Or maybe I have a lot of people that are all in front of me, and I need to actually find some people that I can mentee and give forward, or vice versa. That's a great exercise to do.
Mhm.
And so, okay, I'm curious about winning. So, as someone that is like helping athletes, in kid athletes, right? Like, you want to get them to a place where they are winning and, achieving those goals. Like, obviously, Olympic status, like, what are you going after? The gold, like, not the silver, right? Or not the bronze. But how do you, like, what is that mental game that happens to go after the win and like that first place prize, but also still like navigate between like caring for yourself as like the human that isn't perfect, and you never know what's going to be the card that's going to be dealt, right?
Yeah. This is such a good question. I love it. The biggest piece is that there's two kinds of goals. There are what we call outcome goals, and then there's process goals. And outcome goals is that Olympic gold medal that we're talking about, or is
Mm-hmm.
the, your business hitting six figures, or it is your, like, those are the big outcome goals. And those are really important, but not in the way that a lot of people think. Because if we become too attached to that gold medal, all of a sudden that's us kind of rerouting back to the pressure. And it's all about, we have to get that outcome. But at the end of the day, we can't control outcomes as much as we
Mm-hmm.
want to. It'd be so great if I could go, yeah, I want the gold medal. Here we go. Right. Like
Right.
tomorrow, right. Like, but
These
that's
are
not,
who the people I'll compete against.
yeah. Yeah. But
Mhm.
so what happens is that outcome goals are important because they give us a direction. And so I
Mhm.
like to say with my youth that that is our lighthouse. It's giving us direction. We know where we want to go. Now, the
Mhm.
most important part is to keep our head down into where our feet are right now and focus on the process goals. Who do we
Mhm.
need to become in order to be the kind of person that does get that gold medal?
Mhm.
And literally breaking that down into such small bite-sized pieces that are mini goals that go on every day. What kind of, well,
Mhm.
the person who's going to get the gold medal is going to sleep at night, not scroll on their phone. the person who's going to get the gold medal is going to drink water and is going to show up to class and not have to worry about getting their homework done when they're away for a competition because they've done it already. It's right.
Mhm.
And so all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
becoming the kind of person. And if for some reason the byproduct isn't you getting the gold, what are the stacks of habits and lessons and like,
Mhm.
right, that you've just become in order to be that person? So it's a win-win either way, really.
It's so good. I like just so much gold here. And I think of a lot of times we are so excited as podcasters, and we know we help other people share their stories. Um, it actually, my like infatuation with storytelling stemmed from me actually going through personal transformation, like you're saying, and telling myself a new story
Mhm.
and being like, I'm going to actually write out this story. And so can you share a little bit about like what you've seen in terms of how like storytelling and mental performance can go hand in hand, and like when is it too much, like when is it like you're creating this alter ego and it's like, fractioning the identity? Or does that even happen,
Oh, this is so good. Okay. So what we tell ourselves is absolutely huge because our brain doesn't actually know the difference between reality and imagination. And this kind of like spider webs into so many different things. But the first thing is how we speak to ourselves and the picture that we paint of ourselves to ourselves. So if we're constantly going, you know, oh, I wish I could do that. I can't do that. I'm not strong enough to take a surf lesson. Like whatever it is, then guess what? That's what it's going to be. But if you are painting yourself a picture in your own head by the way that you speak to yourself, like you are your own biggest cheerleader, the way that you are using your visualization, all of a sudden your brain starts to detect those things more, and you find yourself surrounded by other people or in situations where that can happen, and all of a sudden you are that person. And visualization is one of the big skills that we teach. And the important, like vision boards, right? All you women out there, you've probably done a vision board. They're wonderful. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They are great. But we can go deeper into visualizing who we want to be, where we want to go, and how we get there. And we can actually create that. And it's a skill called the 3 S's that I like to share. Do you want me to go into it a little bit? Yeah. Okay. So it goes into your first S is skills. So, what skills do you need to have in order to get the outcome that you want? And this isn't like general. So when I'm working with athletes, let's say volleyball, okay, what if I want to be the number one power hitter in Canada? I need to know exactly all the micro movements of my arm swing, of how to jump, the timing, like all of these different pieces. And so when I'm visualizing, I need to think of all of those micro little moments that are going to lead to me being the best at that skill. Okay. The second S is your senses, because like I said, your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. And you're sealing the deal with that if you bring your senses in. So if I'm visualizing being the number one power hitter in Canada, then all of a sudden I am in the gym in my head doing those skills, but I can smell the gym. Doesn't usually smell good, right? I can feel I can feel the ball on my hand. I can feel the burning in my muscles from doing all the reps. I can taste the Gatorade I just take a drink of. Like I try and to put my creative writing skills to work in my brain. So that's the second S. The third and final S is struggles. Is it easy to become who we want to become? Is it easy to get the gold medal or the 6 figures or the podcast with 1 million views? No, we're going to come against struggles all the time. And so if we don't visualize, the alarm going off at 5 o'clock in the morning and going running anyways in the rain, then when it happens, we're not going to have the mental reps to know to not press snooze. We're going to press snooze and go back to bed. But if we've been visualizing that it's probably going to be raining at some point when we want to go running, and we know that we're going to do it anyways, then we have made that track in our brain stronger, and we know how to get around it. Those are the 3 S's. I think you're muted. Are you muted? See, we were just talking about struggles, everybody. We're in the mid of recording a podcast, and now I can't hear Ray. that is a struggle, and it's okay. We are going to work around it. And this is why you visualize struggles, so that when things like this happen, it doesn't throw you off your game, and you just keep going and moving forward. There we go. I could hear.
All right. There we go.
There we go.
Just a dead microphone. It's so funny. We literally were saying, I don't think these are working that well. And Sammy, my husband, just came in right before we started, and he goes, "Babe, I just ordered the new ones because I think like something's a little weird with them." This is weird. That's the first time that's ever happened.
It was a perfect point to have it happen too.
It was. It really was. Okay, so clap, clap. Thanks for my editing team helping us out here. Okay, I was just asking you, what is one question that you wish more coaches, and let's throw in also parents, people that are supporting and guiding other people, because I think we have a lot of leaders that are listening to this. Mm-hmm. What is one question you wish they would ask themselves before they step into like high pressure environments?
Okay. It would be, have I rocked through my controllables list?
Okay. That's so good.
So for us, there's 5 things that you can control. There's your effort, your attitude, your self-talk, your preparation, and your focus. Mm-hmm. Everything else outside of that, like, we just don't have control over. And so when we walk into any situation, a hard conversation with our kids, a hiring or a letting go of somebody, or a podcast that we're nervous to do, like whatever it is, if we can walk in and we know that we have like a 4 or a 5 out of 5 on all of our controllables, then we can walk in with some pretty solid courage.
That's so good. That's so good. I was just having that conversation also, literally just a few days ago. And, especially in places that you're maybe experiencing growth or, trying new things, that's where you really want to have a grasp on what is the controllable, so that I know, so that, like, things are going to fail. Things are going to mess up. Like, take the pressure off of yourself, actually, if you're in a new situation, and give yourself that grace, but make sure you know what you can control, and then just be on top of that, and then surrender the rest. So that's such a good point. Well, thank you so much for being on here. Is there any last thing that you'd like to share to the audience?
Yeah, I would go one quick breath work tool, honestly, that I have found has helped me so much, is that when we are in those high pressure moments, or we're feeling the angst, right? Or butterflies. I always say butterflies are good. They work for you. Just get them into formation. Right. And then they're going to work for you. I learned that from a ninja on my podcast. I love it. And now I reuse it all.
That is so good.
and I match that with this breath work, and it's called a physiological sigh. And so it's actually a natural thing. When we cry hard, you notice that you're like, okay, so that's a physiological sigh. And so to do it on purpose, we empty our lungs totally, and then put your tongue to the roof of your mouth with your mouth closed, and breathe in through your nose. And that's going to fill the bottom part of your diaphragm first, and then the top. And then when you get to the top, stop. And before you breathe out, take a quick sniff of extra air in. And that's going to actually expand your lungs fully, and then breathe all the way out. And that is the fastest way to let your nervous system know that you're actually safe and you're in control. And that's helped me a lot.
Wow, that was so good. I already feel more relaxed after one of those. Imagine sitting and doing
Right,
it.
right.
Well, thank you so much for all the tools and the wisdom that you brought to this podcast. Everyone, definitely go find and connect with Mariel and go check out what she's doing with Forge Youth. It truly is incredible. And I mean, I think there's a lot of moms on here as well. So if you know a child student athlete that is looking for support or skills, you know, or maybe their team is looking for this kind of support, definitely make that connection. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ray.
Thanks for listening to Miracle Moment. Share the episode, hit follow, and join us every Thursday for prayer and activation. For more tools to rise into your God-given mission, visit rayireland.com. See you next week.